Signs of a bad radiator fan, causes and quick fixes. Have you ever been stuck in traffic, noticed your temperature gauge climbing into the red, and started to panic that your engine was about to overheat? One of the most common reasons for that situation is a failing radiator fan. This little hero inside your cooling system is easy to forget about, but when it stops doing its job, the results can be expensive and even catastrophic for your engine. Today, we're breaking down the clear signs of a bad radiator fan, the underlying causes, and the quick fixes you can use to get back on the road with confidence. Welcome to Auto V-Fix. Today we'll translate those real-world symptoms into plain language causes, show you simple tests you can do in your driveway to separate electrical faults from mechanical wear, and walk through quick fixes and smart replacements so you can stop heat problems before they snowball. The radiator fan's job is simple but vital. It pulls air through the radiator to keep your engine cool, especially when you're idling or moving slowly, and there isn't enough natural airflow. At highway speeds, your car pushes plenty of air through the radiator on its own. But in traffic or at stoplights, the fan is the only thing preventing your engine from overheating. When it doesn't work properly, you'll start to see clues, sometimes subtle, sometimes obvious, that something is wrong. The first and most critical sign is engine overheating, when you're sitting still or crawling at low speeds. If the temperature gauge starts creeping toward the hot zone every time you idle, but then drops back down once you're moving, that's a big red flag that the fan isn't doing its job. Steam coming from under the hood or a temperature warning light popping up on the dashboard are more dramatic signs. Ignore those and you could easily end up with a blown head gasket or warped cylinder head. The second sign is simple. The fan doesn't spin when it's supposed to. The fan is designed to kick in when the engine reaches a certain temperature or when the air conditioning is switched on. So here's a quick check you can do at home. Let your car warm up to normal operating temperature while parked, or turn on the AC with the engine running. If the fan doesn't start spinning, you've got a problem. It could be the fan motor itself, the relay, or a bad temperature sensor, not telling the fan when to engage. Another clue is noise. A healthy radiator fan shouldn't make much sound beyond the normal hum of air movement. But if you start hearing grinding, buzzing, or rattling from the fan area, that points to trouble. Worn-out bearings inside the motor can grind, broken blades can rattle, and debris caught in the blades can buzz or knock. On mechanical fans, which are driven by a clutch off the engine, a failing clutch can cause a loud roar or whining noise. If your car sounds like a small airplane every time you accelerate, that's often a sign the fan clutch is stuck engaged. Then there's air conditioning performance. Your radiator fan doesn't just keep the engine cool, it also helps your AC condenser release heat. If the fan isn't running, you might notice the AC blows warm air when idling but gets cold again once you're driving at highway speeds. That's because without the fan, the condenser can't shed heat at low airflow. If your AC feels inconsistent, don't always blame the refrigerant. It could be the cooling fan. Electrical issues are another telltale sign. If your cooling fan keeps blowing fuses, melting connectors, or tripping relays, chances are the motor is drawing too much current. That's often because the motor is worn out and struggling to spin, pulling extra amps until something gives. If you replace a fuse and it blows again almost immediately, you need to dig deeper into the fan motor and relay. On the flip side, sometimes the fan runs too much, spinning constantly, even when the engine is cool. That usually points to a stuck relay, a bad sensor, or in mechanical fans, a clutch that won't disengage. Modern cars also throw error codes you can read with a cheap OBD2 scanner. Codes like P0480 or P0481 indicate fan control circuit issues. P0128 can sometimes show up if the engine is running cooler than expected, often because a fan is stuck on. If you get a check engine light, it's worth scanning before you start swapping parts blindly. Now, what causes these problems in the first place? For electric fans, the big culprits are a bad motor, a blown fuse, or a faulty relay. Motors wear out over time, especially if debris keeps them from spinning freely. Fuses blow when too much current flows, and relays, which are basically electronic switches, can get stuck open or closed. Bad wiring or corroded connectors are another common issue, cutting off power before it reaches the fan. For mechanical fans, the issues are usually with the fan clutch or belt. A worn clutch can either freewheel so the fan never engages, or get stuck engaged so it spins all the time. If you see fluid leaking from the clutch hub, that's a sure sign it's toast. A broken belt, of course, means the fan can't spin at all, which will quickly lead to overheating. So, how do you troubleshoot at home? Start with the basics. Pop the hood, let the engine warm up, and watch the fan. If it doesn't spin with the engine hot or the AC on, move on to checking the fuse. Your owner's manual or fuse box cover will tell you which one controls the fan. If it's blown, replace it with the exact same rating. If it blows again right away, that points to a bad motor or wiring short. Next, check the relay. Most relays are plug-in units inside the fuse box. You can often swap it with another relay of the same type in the box to see if the fan comes back to life. If it does, the relay was bad. If you're comfortable with tools, you can also test the fan motor directly. Disconnect the harness and run jumper wires from the fan straight to the battery. Positive to positive, negative to negative. If the fan spins, the motor is good, and the problem lies elsewhere in the circuit. If it doesn't, the motor needs to be replaced. For wiring checks, look closely at the connectors for burn marks, corrosion, or loose pins. A multimeter is handy here. With the fan harness disconnected, set your meter to DC volts and check if you're getting 12 volts at the connector when the engine is hot or the AC is on. If you see power but the fan doesn't spin, that confirms a bad motor. If there's no power, the issue is upstream with the relay, fuse, or control module. On mechanical fans, give the fan a spin by hand with the engine off. If it spins freely with no resistance, the clutch is likely worn out. If it never loosens up and always feels locked, that clutch is stuck engaged. Either way, it's time for a replacement. Sometimes you'll run into intermittent operation, fans that kick on and off randomly or only run sometimes. That usually points to a weak relay or a flaky sensor. You might hear clicking or buzzing when the relay struggles to deliver power. If the fan works sometimes but not always, that's where you want to focus. Now, what about quick fixes? If you're stuck in an emergency and your fan isn't working, you can temporarily bypass the relay and hardwire the fan to run continuously. It's not ideal, but it can get you safely to a shop without overheating. To do this, you'd use a jumper wire in the relay socket to send power directly to the fan. Just remember, this means the fan will run anytime the ignition is on, so don't leave it wired like this long term. Of course, the best fix is replacement when parts are worn. Electric fans usually come as a complete assembly: motor, blades, and shroud. Swapping the whole unit is often easier and ensures everything is balanced correctly. For mechanical fans, replacing the clutch or belt usually solves the problem. As for cost, it varies. A simple fuse or relay replacement might be under $20. A new electric fan assembly can run anywhere from $200 to $500 including labor, depending on the vehicle. Mechanical fan clutches are often in the $150 to $300 range. The good news is, catching the problem early saves you from the massive costs of overheating damage like warped heads or blown gaskets, which can climb into the thousands. So let's recap. The main signs of a bad radiator fan include overheating at idle, the fan not spinning when hot or with the AC on, unusual noises, weak AC performance, blown fuses, constant or intermittent fan operation, error codes and in mechanical systems, clutch fluid leaks or strange spinning behavior. Causes range from worn motors, blown fuses and bad relays to faulty sensors, wiring issues, or worn clutches and belts. Quick checks you can do at home include watching the fan at temperature, inspecting fuses and relays, testing the motor directly, and checking wiring for power. Quick fixes include replacing simple parts, bypassing the fan in emergencies, and ultimately replacing the assembly or clutch if needed. The radiator fan might seem like just another part under the hood, but it's one of those components that keeps everything else in balance. Without it, your engine overheats, your AC struggles, and your car quickly becomes undrivable. Stay alert to the signs, take action early, and you'll save yourself a lot of stress and money. If you found this guide helpful, hit that like button and subscribe to Auto VFix for more straightforward car repair tips. And let me know in the comments, have you ever had your radiator fan fail, and what symptoms did you notice first?